Once you're on Edge Your Friend, you need to go to assignments. Then you should have one open. It's like the week 1 assessment or something like that. Yes. Online assignment, inventors at work, week 1, assessment 1 or something. Press start and then stop. I'm going to share my screen so your screen will look like mine in 1 second. So normally we have one of these it's like a bigger assessment, and we have this every 2 weeks. And normally I'll just be like, okay, take your test, and then we'll call it a day. But since it's our first one, I'm going to kind of walk you guys through it. I'm going to actually read you the passage and stuff. So normally you'll just do it on your own, but today I'm going to walk you through it. So if you're at home, you should be seeing my shared screen now. If you're at school, I need your screen to be on Inventors at Work. And your friend, where you see a start button. Or go to number 1, whichever's fine. If you're an online learner today, you're going to be going back and forth between the 2 tabs. No big deal. But I am going to be reading the passage for you today. Hey, Ethan, you're not at the right spot, dude. Can you get at the right spot? You need to go to assignments. And then you need to go to the assessments. You're on a story. It is recording, so if you miss something, all you got to do is do it later. Also, some of you have never took your quiz from yesterday. That's a problem. It's already 10% off because you never took it. So be sure that you took your other quiz today sometime. I'm going to get started, and you can see my shared screen. You press the start button, and then it goes to a really long passage and question number 1. I'm going to read the passage to you. Normally, you will read the passage yourself, but since it's our first time, I'm going to read the passage and I'll walk you through the questions. You're still going to answer the questions yourself, but I'm going to walk you through them, okay? So I am now going to start reading. How whales wing it. Paragraph 1. Whale watchers are amazed at how gracefully the humpback whale can move. From the deck of a boat, it's exciting to see a humpback emerge from the ocean. As big as a school bus and as heavy as 8 elephants, the whale turns into the air. Now scientists are studying the way humpback whales move. And they are using the results to do some surprising things, like creating better wind power. A whale of a mistake? Paragraph 3. The research started when Dr. Frank Fish was looking at a model of a humpback whale in a Boston shop. He noticed that the front or leading edge of the whale's flipper was covered in little bumps. Dr. Fish studies the science of animal movement. The bumpy flippers just didn't make sense to him. Here's why Dr. Fish thought the artist had it wrong. As a whale moves through the water, 3 forces act on the animal's body and affect its movements. They are the same forces that act on an airplane wing and enable the plane to fly. The first force is thrust, which moves the whale forward. The second force is drag, which slows the whale down. The third force is lift. As the whale angles a flipper upward, water pushing against the bottom side of the flipper creates lift, raising the flipper. A humpback uses lift under one flipper or the other to turn. But the tilt of the flipper that creates lift also increases drag. In fact, if the whale keeps tilting the flipper, at some point the angle will create so much drag that the flipper will stall or stop producing lift. So the humpback is always changing the angles of its flipper to create the desired lift with the least drag. Paragraph 7. Dr. Fish knew the shape of the flipper or an airplane wing is important. Shapes that decrease drag will increase lift and delay stalling, and smooth, sleek surfaces seem to do that best. In other words, bumpy flippers should slow a whale down. However, the artist was right. Humpback flippers have bumps or tubercles. Dr. Fish was puzzled, but he knew that animals' special characteristics are usually helpful to animals. What if science had it wrong and the bumps were the secret to how the humpback whale is able to swim so gracefully? From whales to wind. Paragraph 10. To test his theory, Dr. Fish teamed up with engineers from Duke University and the U.S. Naval Academy. The team made models of whale flippers and tested them in a wind tunnel. The result was a surprise. Flippers with bumps created more lift and less drag than sleek flippers. The secret seemed to lie in the way tubercles break up the flow of air and water, creating tiny vorticles or swirls. As the whale moves through the water, these verticals roll up and over the flipper, improving lift. The scientists wondered how they could apply their findings. At first, we were thinking airplane wings, says Dr. Fish. Then we started thinking about windmills. 13. Wind power is created by turbines, giant fan blades mounted on tall poles or towers. One problem for turbines is that wind is not constant. Even in gusty places like North Dakota and Kansas, strong winds do not blow all the time. When the wind blows slowly, the turbine blades can stall, much like a whale flipper or an airplane wing. 14. Dr. Fish and business person Stephen Dwyer started a new company. They added features that are like wind or whale tubercles on the wind turbines. Because the attachments decrease drag and delay stall, these turbines keep turning even at low wind speeds. Dr. Fish hopes to apply the same technology to airplane wings and even ship and submarine rudders. 15. Dr. Fish loves the idea of using nature's design to invent new technologies, but he points out that the idea has been around for more than 500 years, since the famous artist and scientist Leonardo da Vinci imagined new machines based off the shape and movements of animals, says Dr. Fish. The possibilities are very exciting. So the first question you're going to answer, I'm going to read it to you, and then you're going to choose an answer. Then you're going to move on to number 2. Once you move on to number 2, I need you to either put your hand on top of your head so I can see it if you're at home or your video's on. If your video's not on, please type number 2 in the chat. Whose point of view is the article written in? So, is Dr. Fish telling the story? Well, you're not answering it. You're doing this yourself. I'm just walking you through it today. Is Stephen Dwyer telling the story? Is a whale watcher, some random person watching whales, telling the story? Or is an outside observer, which you could also say a narrator, telling the story? Dr. Fish, Stephen Dwyer, a whale watcher, or an outside observer. You could also call an outside observer a narrator. Okay? So is a narrator telling this story? Is a whale watcher telling this story? Once you're done, move on to question 2. So I know we can move on to question 2. And think about, we talked about point of view when we read one of our stories about how a narrator talks and they say he and she, and how first person talks, they say things like I instead of names. Yes? And at any time, you can always go back and change an answer if you need to. I'm just going to walk you through all the questions is all. So if I'm going too fast, you can always watch the recording or go back to later, okay? So question 2. This is where our prefix E comes into. And really listen to me as I'm reading this. So I'm going to read the sentence from paragraph 1. From the deck of the boat, it's exciting to see a humpback emerge from the ocean. Think about the prefix E. What is the meaning of emerge above? So I'm going to put all of our options into the sentence, and one of them is going to sound really good and the others are going to sound a little bit silly. So think about how I'm saying it. So is it A, it's exciting to see a humpback go across from the ocean? B, it's exciting to see a humpback come out of the ocean? C, it's exciting to see a humpback act playfully from the ocean? Or D, it's exciting to see a humpback move very quickly from the ocean? If someone or something is emerging, what does that mean? Go across, come out of, act playfully, move very quickly. Once you answer, you can move to question 3. Put your hand on top of your head when you're ready for 3, or type 3 in the chat. You will be able to ask questions at the end before I log off. So if you have a question, please. Yes. What? All right, I'm going to move on to question 3. If you need, remember, we are going to be able to ask questions at the end, so it's okay. What is the author's main purpose? So why did the author write this? Think about how I'm explaining it before you choose your answer. Did the author write this to tell about the results of a discovery? The discovery could be the bumps on the whale fins. Did the author write this to persuade people to use wind power? Was the author telling you, hey, use wind power? Did the author write it just to entertain us about whales? Is that the only reason? Just to be like, yeah, whales are great. Is that why the author wrote this? Or lastly, did the author write this to describe the life of an important scientist? Did we hear about the life of Dr. Fish? I didn't ask you to answer. Anyway, so choose A, B, C, or D. Think about what did we learn? Why was the author writing this? And then once you are good to go on question 3, put your hand on top of your head and you can move to question 4. Remember, you can always go back and relook at things, so. All right, so far so good. So question 4. Why does the author include the details in paragraph 3 about what is happening in the Boston shop? So I'm going to reread paragraph 3 to you, okay? It's important. 3. The research started when Dr. Frank Fish was looking at a model of a humpback whale in the Boston shop. He noticed that the front or leading edge of the whale flipper was covered with little bumps. Dr. Fish studies the science of animal movement, and the bumpy flippers just didn't make sense to him. So why was that included? Was it to help readers understand how scientists work? To show you the difference between scientists and artists? To explain how the research into whale flippers began? Remember, a synonym for began would be started, which if I recall, it might be in paragraph 3. And D, to support the idea that humpback whales are amazing. A, B, C, or D. Then I'm going to have you go to question 6. We're going to skip 5 and come back to question 6. Or we're going to skip 5 and go back to 6. It's going to say, are you sure you want to skip? Yes, we're sure. 5 is going to take us the longest, so we're going to do that last. So go to question 6 after you answer question 5. Or after you answer question 4. I'm sorry. I'm getting all confused with my numbers. So, okay, say question 6 when you're ready for 6, or put your hand on top of your head. Okay, don't hit your head. Just put your hand up there nicely. Question 6 is when we're talking about theme. And remember, theme is what the author is trying to get us to learn, the main reason for it, etc. So, which sentence from the article best represents the main theme? Listen to me explain them before you choose your answer. Is the whole idea and theme of this article to test the theory of Dr. Fish? To test his theory, Dr. Fish teamed up with engineers from Duke University and U.S. Naval Academy. Is that what the entire thing is about? I think we only heard about that once, so I'm going to let you know it's not A. Is it B? The secret seems to lie in the way tubercles break up the flow of air and water, creating tiny vorticles or swirls. Is that what the whole thing is about? Is the entire thing about because the attachments decrease drag and delay stall, these tubercles keep turning even at low wind speed? Or is the main theme what the author's trying to get across to you? D. Dr. Fish loves the idea of using nature's designs, such as the whale fin, to invent new technologies. The new technology would be the wind bump turbine thing. So what is this main thing about? Once you answer, you may move on to question 7. What is this whole thing mainly about? What is the author trying to teach us about Dr. Fish or about whales? What's the author trying to teach us? Remember, we will have time at the end for questions. So if you're an at-home learner or if you're in the classroom, we will ask questions before we end our live. So okay. Number 8 is a context clue questions. Remember, context clues are when you use other words and sentences to know what a word means if you don't already know what it means. So one problem for turbines is that wind is not constant. Okay, constant is the word we need to keep in our mind. Even in gusty places like North Dakota and Kansas, strong winds do not blow all the time. So what is the meaning of the word constant? Does constant mean steady? Does it mean visible? First off, wind is never visible, so do not choose B because it is not B. Is it common or is it valuable? Think about does not blow all the time. Okay, so if something doesn't blow all the time, then it is not what? It is not steady, not visible. I already told you it's not visible. Is it not common or is it not valuable? Think about that. And then you may move on to 8. Remember, if you don't have time to answer a question while I'm going, you can always answer it later. There are always, at the end of these module assessments, 3 questions that have to do with grammar. So this is the grammar skill that you learned this week, which was complete sentences. So I'm going to read a winter walk to you, and then you guys are going to fix the sentences, okay? So after the snowstorm ended, I decided to go for a walk in the park. Wondered all night how much snow had fallen. I put on my heavy coat and my boots. Then I walked down the snowy sidewalk to the gate of the park. It was lucky that someone had shoveled the paths I could walk without having to wade through deep snow. Okay, that's a silly sentence, so that's probably one we're going to be fixing. The trees looked magical with their branches covered with snow. It was hushed and still throughout the park. I could hear only the call of the birds. After passing the pond, I walked on to my favorite part of the park. So, what is the correct way to write sentence 2? Sentence 2 is wondered all night how much snow had fallen. So, is it A, wondered all night, comma, how much snow had fallen? B, I wondered all night how much snow had fallen? C, I wondered all night, period, how much snow had fallen, period? Or D, wondered all night how much snow had fallen? After you make your choice, you may move on to question 9. Another grammar skill question. All right, question 9. What is the correct way to write sentence 5? This is sentence 5. It was lucky that someone had shoveled the paths I could walk without having to wade through deep snow. Okay, that's not a good sentence, so we need to fix it. Is it A, it was lucky, period, that someone had shoveled the paths I could walk without having to wade through deep snow? Is it B, it was lucky that someone had shoveled the paths I could walk without having to wade through deep snow? Or is it C, it was lucky that someone had shoveled the paths I could walk without having to wade through deep snow? Or is it D, it was lucky that someone had shoveled the paths I could walk, period, without having to wade through deep snow? So look at where the punctuation is, read it to yourself. What do you think? After you choose number 9, you can move on to number 10. Number 10. What is the correct way to write sentence 6? Sentence 6 says, the trees looked magical with their branches covered with snow. Is it the trees looking magical, their branches covered with snow? Is it their branches covered with snow, the trees looking magical? The trees looked magical, branches covered with snow? Or D, no change needed. It's fine how it is. After you choose answer 10, I need you to go back to question 5. After you choose answer 10, I need you to go back to question 5, which has the short response question. After question 5, or after question 10, please go to 5. So 5 is short answer. When you use short answer, you should be restating the question, using some text evidence, adding some details, and having a conclusion sentence. Be sure you are using capital letters and punctuation. Those are a must. So, how does this article support the idea that new discoveries can lead to surprises? So I'm going to explain a little bit to you. Then you guys are going to be able to work, log off, and so on. So think the lovely Dr. Fish was in a random shop and he was looking at this whale model and he saw these bumps on a whale's fin that someone else had discovered. So that was a discovery that someone else had made and then he saw. So this surprise of him seeing the bumps on the whale fins led to a new invention of the things that look like tubercles on the windmills. So you need to talk about that, okay? How do these new discoveries lead to surprises? Discovering something, how does it lead to a new invention or something of that nature? So after you finish typing in your short answer and you double check your answers and you're good to go, you will submit your test. You will not get a score right away. Well, you'll get a score, but it won't be your final score. Your score will change because I have to physically type in, or I have to physically grade your short answer question. So it won't be done for a little bit because there's a lot of you. Okay. And then after you do your assessment, make sure you did your quiz from yesterday because some of you did not do it. And then after that, you may read it for AR or you may work on your writing prompts, okay? But this is all we're doing for reading today. Also, I'm going to type in the code that you will need to do sometime today. Our code is Fishy Friday because we read about a whale, so I thought it would be funny. So Fishy Friday is today's code. If you do not have any questions, you may get off, and this recording will be posted as soon as I get it uploaded. So if you do not have a question, you may get off. If you do have a question, please type it now. If you're in class with me, you may work on your quiz, submit it when you're done. Make sure you put the code in. Olivia. Yeah. You may leave whenever you're ready to go. If you have a question, please type it in. Be sure to No, you do not have any homework. As long as you finish the quiz from yesterday and this test today, no homework over the weekend for reading, minus be sure you're working on your writing prompt. You have till August, or you have till September 11th for your writing prompts. So your homework is just to work on your writing prompts. Brachelle, I think this might be your last live today because you already had social studies, you already had math, and I'm not going again live today because we don't need to go live for grammar because the grammar quiz is already posted. So I think that's it. Eden, I will read your email shortly. Landon, do you have a question? What's your question? It's asking you, how can discoveries lead to surprises? So the discovery of the bumps led to what surprise? What's another example of that maybe in our lives? Yeah, you talk about what discovery and what that led to from our text. Okay. Rainier and Hannah, do you have a question or are you guys going to get off? Thanks, Rainier. You have a great day too.